Hey teachers, and welcome! We've put together this explainer to help you bring some real clarity and focus to what we all know can be a pretty demanding second semester in AP Seminar.
Okay, so let's just dive right into the big question. We know the second semester can feel like a marathon. You're juggling two huge individual assessments plus a final exam. It can feel like a lot. But our goal here is to break it all down into a super clear, totally actionable game plan.
So here's how we're going to do that. First, we'll take a look at the big picture of the semester. Then we'll zoom way in on Performance Task 2, and then do the same for the EOC exam. And finally, we'll tie it all together by looking at the core skills your students need to absolutely nail this.
When you really boil it down, this entire semester is a journey. And it's a journey with two really important destinations for your students. And here they are, the two pillars holding up the whole thing. What's so important to see here is the different demand on your students. With Performance Task 2, they have to create their own argument from the ground up. But then on the EOC exam, they have to deconstruct and analyze arguments that are already made, and do it on the clock. So basically, every skill you teach is feeding into one of these two big buckets.
All right, let's talk about our first big climb, Performance Task 2. This thing is a huge piece of the puzzle, right? It's worth a whopping 35% of their final AP score, and honestly, this is where your students get to really become independent researchers.
And this right here is probably the single most important rule of the game for students to get. The stimulus material isn't just a suggestion box, it is the anchor for their entire project. Their question, their argument, their research, it all has to tie back in a meaningful way to at least one of these documents, no exceptions.
Now, looking at this breakdown really helps you focus your energy. I mean, obviously that 2,000-word paper is the lion's share of the score. But here's the thing, you can't sleep on the presentation and the oral defense. Sure, they're weighted less, but that's where students prove they actually have a deep command of their topic and can think on their feet. Those are the skills that can really push a score into the top tier.
So your job really is to guide them on this path. It all starts with them digging into that stimulus pack, trying to find an interesting question. Then they have to funnel all those ideas into a real, defensible research question, weigh all the different perspectives, and finally build and present an argument that feels like it's part of a bigger conversation.
Okay, time to tackle the final summit, the end-of-course exam. This is the biggest single piece of the pie. We're talking 45% of the total score, and it is all about performing under pressure.
You know, the best way to think about this 2-hour exam is like a 2-act play. Act 1, Part A, is all about deconstruction. Students have to expertly break down someone else's argument. Then, for Act 2, Part B, they have to totally switch gears and move to construction, building their own argument using a bunch of different sources.
So to get them ready, the name of the game is timed practice, over and over again. They need to get into a rhythm of reading something fast, processing the argument, weighing the evidence, and then weaving it all together with other sources, all with that clock ticking. It's not just about writing fast, it's about thinking smart and efficiently. You know, if you've ever looked at the official pacing guides, you've probably seen that phrase, all previous skills, pop up constantly. Well, there's a reason for that. Both PT2 and the EOC exam are built on the very same foundational toolkit of skills. So let's open up that toolkit and see what's inside. Think of this as the essential gear for their whole journey. It really breaks down into 4 key areas. First up, analysis skills. Can they actually understand the context and perspective of what they're reading? Second, evidence skills. Can they tell good evidence from bad, and can they use it well? Third, and this is the big one, argumentation skills. Can they build a solid argument of their own? And finally, communication and reflection. Can they share their ideas clearly and think about their own process? If you focus your teaching on these 4 buckets, you're getting them ready for everything. So what about those last few weeks of class, after the big exam is over? What's the real point of Cycle 6? Well, it's not just filler time to watch movies. It's actually meant to build a really critical bridge.
See, this part of the year is all about explicitly connecting the dots between the skills they just mastered in seminar and the massive independent project they're about to take on in AP Research. So you're not just finishing the semester, you're launching them into their next big adventure.
This quote from the course overview just says it all, doesn't it? Our goal here isn't just to help them pass a test. It's about giving them these powerful, critical thinking skills that they're going to use long after they've left our classrooms, in college, in their careers, in life.
So, as you sit down to plan your semester, this is really the question to ask yourself. Where are you going to start? Because whether it's analyzing perspective or evaluating evidence, that first step you take with them is going to set the foundation for everything that comes after.